Hey guys, welcome back. So today is day two of Git. Okay, so today let's see all the important comments and branching strategies and what are all the advanced Git topics that are available. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the basic setup. Okay, so when you set up your account, the first thing you have to do is you have to configure this global username and user email ID. So why is this important? Okay, so for example, if you are working on your own project just for testing or something, you can give whatever you want. That is fine. Okay, for example, if you are working in an organization, you will have multiple team members and multiple teams. Okay, we will have testing team, dev team, multiple teams, and even in your team in DevOps team multiple people will be there. Okay, so for example, let's assume like you are managing some Kubernetes manifest file. So if someone is making change, how we will know exactly that person has made the change? Okay, then we can ask him whether is this change correct or why did you make this change. So in order to identify which user has made the changes, we have to define the global username. Okay, so here what happens, so when we set git config hyphen hyphen global username Ashok Kumar and git config global user email, your email ID. So what will happen? So whenever you make any of the commit or any changes, in case if you push something to the git repository, it will be in your name. Okay. Then the end user who see or your teammates who see, they will get to know who exactly have made the changes. Okay. Because of that, we have to set up this one. Okay. So this is the basic setup and it is very mandatory. Okay. So that's why we set up this Git global configs. Okay. So next is creating and cloning. So yesterday we have seen Git init. Okay. So in case if you are creating a new folder, that will be not Git repo. Okay. So in case if you have to make a repo as Git repo, then actually you have to create a folder and you have to just do git init. Okay, so when you do git init, that git folder will be created inside the git for that inside that folder. Then when you execute all the git commands like git add, commit, or push, those commands will be executed. Okay, so there are two options. Okay, one is you create a folder and then you push that folder into the git repository. Okay, so when you create a new folder, you have to follow git init. Okay, so then we have something called git clone. Now what happens, for example, you will have this github account, right? So in the github account, if you create a repository, in case if you want that repository in your laptop, okay, then you have to do git clone. So what is the main difference? So in case if you create a folder in your computer, you will not have .git file. Okay, but when you do git clone, that will already have the .git file because it has come from the GitHub account, right? So the folder which comes from the GitHub account, by default it will have the .git folder, and all the commands which you do like git add, commit, whatever it is, it will directly work when you clone a repo. Okay, but when you create a folder directly on your local system, you will not be able to do that git commands. Okay, so when we do the demo, we can see how this works. Okay, that is the main difference between creating and cloning. So next is staging and committing. Okay, so for example, you have created a file like you are doing vi 1.txt, 2.txt, and then you have a file, or else you have a file and you make some modifications. Okay, then when you do git status, it will show the changes which you have made, the number of files, the changes have been made. It will show. Okay, and then when you do, in case if you have to move it to the working area, then you have to do git add. Okay, then you have to add the git commit to push it into the local repository. Okay, so these are all the basic commands which you need to know, and this you will be using regularly. Okay, git status, git add, and git commit. So when you commit, it will be pushed into the local repository, and you have to give the message. This is mandatory. Okay, like why this message is mandatory? For example, if you are working on certain task, okay, for example, you are working on automation of monitoring EC2 instance. Okay, but how will you know after 6 months, like of what you have made these changes, and how you will know like how exactly, like for what exactly you have made the changes? Or else, for example, if you need that change, like you have made some change to the EC2, but you don't know which commit ID. So when you give this message, based on this message, you will be able to identify the exact changes which you have done. Okay, because of that, you have to give the message when you do the commit. Okay, branching and merging. Okay, so branching. So what is branch? Okay, so by default, when you create a repo or something, you will have the main branch or master branch. So don't get confused between main and master. Both are same. Okay, only the naming convention it differs. So some may name it as master and some may name it as main, but both are same. Okay, so by default, when you create a repo, it will be master. Okay, in case if you see main, don't get confused, both master and main are same. Okay, that is the main branch. In case, for example, you have the main branch and you have the main code in it. Okay, but you don't want to touch that main code, you have to just make modifications, but it should not affect the main branch. So what you can do, you can create a feature branch, or else, for example, you have a application. For example, let's consider you have a Amazon application. So you have payments, cart, everything. Okay, so you have to add some new feature. Like for example, let's assume you have to add a option to pay to make the payment using UPI. Okay, let's assume you don't have that option before. Now you have to work on adding that UPI payment. So instead of disturbing the main branch directly, you can create a new feature branch. Okay, git branch feature hyphen UPI. You can give it a name as hyphen UPI, so that you will know like it is a feature of UPI. Then you can do git checkout feature UPI. So once you create the branch, git branch and then a branch name, this feature is the branch name, whatever name you want you can give. Okay, in case if you have to check out to that, you have to use that branch, then you have to use git checkout feature. Okay, and then in case if you have to merge that feature branch changes into the master branch, then you have to merge it using git merge feature. Okay, so you have to check out feature and then from feature you have to do git merge feature. So you shouldn't do this from master. Okay, you have to do it from the feature branch to the master branch. Okay, so we can clearly see this during the demo mostly tomorrow. Okay, so this is the branching. Okay, and then push and pull. Okay, so for example, if you have made some changes and you have to push that changes to the global repository. Okay, then you have to use the command git push. Okay, so what will happen, so the code which is in your system or in your computer, it will go into the global repository. It is like GitHub repository or GitLab repository, whichever it is. Okay, and one of your colleague or some other team has made changes to the same file. Okay, so you want that changes to be present in your system. Okay, then what you have to do, you have to do the git pull. Okay, when you do git pull, it will pull the changes from remote repository to your local machine. When you do git push, it will push the changes from your local repository to the remote repository. Okay, that is the main difference. And branching strategies. Okay, so normally feature branching, so for example, you have multiple features. For example, when you take Amazon itself, we have a feature called payment, we have a feature called cart, we have the inventory section, we have the product section, so we have multiple things, right? So when developers work, they will be working on each feature. We will have a separate team for payment, we will have a separate team for cart, we have a separate team for inventory. Okay, so they all need to work on separate feature branches. Okay, let's assume a feature branch called UPI, a feature branch called cards, a feature branch called payment. Okay, so the main is production. Okay, the main code is production, and then in case if you have to work on certain features, you have to create the feature branch. Okay, so we have multiple features. To work on features, you have feature branch, and then in case if we have release, for example, we will have multiple iterations and then we will have multiple releases. For example, this is 2026, right? So we 2025, right? So we will have releases like 25.1, 25.2. For example, if your release is monthly, or else 3 week, once in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, so based on that you can name that release. I am giving an example, that naming convention can be anything. Okay, so for example, if we have just for example, in case if it is 2025, you can keep it as 25.1, 25.2, 25.3. So similarly, for based on your iteration and release, you can just name that release branch like that. And for example, you have deployed something to the production, but there is some serious bug. Okay, and it needs to be fixed immediately. Then what you can do, you can create a branch called artfix branch, and then you can make all the required changes, and then you can push this artfix branch into the main branch. Okay, so that you will be able to fix that issue immediately. Okay, so this artfix, it is for fixing some urgent issues which has happened in production or whatever. Okay, so this is the main branching strategy. Okay, we will have main, and developers can have multiple feature branches, and then for each release you can have release branches, and in case if you have to fix something, you can have hotfix branch. Okay, So remote repositories. So once you have your code in your local repository, it has to be pushed to the remote repository. Why it has to be pushed to the remote repository? If you push to the remote repository, all the users, end users, they will be able to access and analyze your changes. Like what are all the features or changes which you have pushed to that particular product. Everyone will be able to see. Okay. So common remote platforms. So GitHub, it is like open source, and we have GitHub Actions, everything nowadays to the configure the CI/CD pipelines. So it is open source. Okay. So even yesterday we have tried to create a GitHub account, right? So you can use that one. And we have GitLab. Okay, that is for the enterprise with the DevOps pipeline. That is an enterprise offering. And Bitbucket. So it is from Atlassian. Okay, so it integrates with the Jira and many Atlassian tools. It will easily integrate with that one. Okay, so most commonly used one is GitHub and Bitbucket. Okay, so in case if you have a new remote repository, okay, how you can add that remote repository into your local account? So you can add git remote add origin, and then you have to give the URL of that repo. Okay, and then in case if you have to push your local changes to that repository, you have to give git push -u origin main. Okay, so that those changes will be pushed into the remote repo. Okay, and common git issues. So for example, what are all the major issues you face? One of the common thing is merge conflict. Okay, so what happens? So for example, we have a file. Okay, so we have a file called one.txt. Okay, so you are working on some automation and you are making some changes. At the same time, your colleague also works on the same page. Okay, one.txt. For example, you are making some change on line number 1, and your colleague is making some change on line number 10. Okay, so what happens? For example, you have done the git clone, and then you have done git pull everything. Now you started working, and your colleague also started pulling that one, and he started working on that. Now what happens? You are making change, and before you push it, your colleague makes the change and push the changes. Okay, now what happens? Your friend, like your colleague, have made change on line number 10. Okay, that is the new change. That new change is not present in your local repository. One thing is you can do git pull before that. Okay, then it may pull the changes. In case if you are not making git pull, and then if you directly do git push, then you will not be able to merge that one. You will see git conflict. Okay, so how you can resolve this one? You can like merge manually by analyzing the errors. Okay, you can just do the diff, and you can check whether that change is required or not. Okay, in case if it is required, you can keep, or else in case if it is not required, you can just remove that one, and you can just keep your changes. Okay, that is one of the common issue, that is the merge conflict. And detached head, for example, if you are working on some other feature branch, and if you forgot to move to main branch, then you can do git switch main. Okay, or git checkout main, so that you will come to the main branch. And wrong commit message, for example, you are doing git commit -m, and then you are giving some wrong message. Okay, instead of some change, Kubernetes change, you type it as Terraform change. Okay, then in case if you have to remove that wrong message, then you have to use the command git commit -amend. Okay, when you do amend, and then you give the message -m, and then new message, that new message will be appended to that existing message. And in case if some accidental a branch is deleted, then you can do git checkout -b, and then you can give the branch, and then you have to pass in the commit id. So how you can check the commit id? Commit id you can get by using git log on. Okay, using that command you will be able to get the commit id, git log. Okay, and some advanced git concepts. Okay, so one of the main questions which they will 90% in case if they are going to ask you a question from git, that will be related to rebase and merge. So what exactly is rebase and what exactly is merge? So this will be very confusing in case if you don't understand how exactly this works. So no matter you google or do whatever you do, when you try to learn, or when you try to explain this thing, you will get confused, and you will not know like what exactly is the main difference between each thing. Okay, so what exactly is merge? So it keeps the history. Okay, it keeps the history, and it will be easy to track. Okay, and rebase, so what exactly rebase will do? Rebase will rewrite the history. So it will be cleaner and linear commits. Okay. So in case if you have to do the rebase, this is the command git rebase main. So when you give git rebase main, it will rebase the main repository. Okay. So now let's assume you have a main branch. Okay. You have a main branch A, B, C. Okay. So for example, someone has made the changes in A and B. Okay. This is commit ID A, commit ID B. When commit ID B was present currently, you are doing a rebase or you are just doing a feature branch. Okay, so you create a feature branch during B. Okay, so you create a feature branch B and you make changes. Okay, so you make changes D and E, and you have taken the feature branch from B. Okay, you have taken feature branch from B and you have made the commits D and E. Meanwhile, someone from your team has pushed some changes after B. So we have a new commit ID C. Okay, but you have taken changes from B, right? So you don't have this new change C in here. Okay, now what happens? Now we have two conditions. Okay, what exactly is merge? Now you have A, B. Okay, you have A, B. Now you have created D, E. Okay, now when you merge, this C will be merged as M. So when you merge, you will create a new commit. So what will happen? This A, B from B, for example, um, okay, we can see this example tomorrow. Okay, I'll try to understand what exactly I'm trying to tell. Okay, so you have a commit A, you have a commit B. So when you have this is the, for example, this is version 1, this is version 2. So from version 2, you have taken the feature branch. Okay, and then you created the version 2.1 because this is version 1, this is version 2, and you have created a version called version 2.1 and version 2.2. Okay, but someone created version 3. Okay, you have version 2, version 2.1, 2.2. Someone created version 3. Now when you do merge, it will just create a new merge. Okay, it will be version 4. Okay, it has created a new merge. It is called version 4. This is how merge will work. It will combine this C. It will combine these C changes inside the E and it will create a merge. Okay. Now what will happen with rebase? Okay, when you do rebase, A, it is version 1, it is version 2. Out of B, you have created a commit. Okay, version 2.1 and version 2.3. Okay, and someone created version 3. Now when you do rebase, it will take this entire D and E and it will put here. Okay, now what it will do, it will have version 3 and it will name this version D and E as version 4 and version 5. Okay, it will come linear. So instead of here, if you see, we have version 2, 2.1, 2.2, then it will merge as version 4. But here you have version 2, version 3, here version 2.1, version 2.2. Okay, but what will happen to this one when you do rebase and merge? It will convert it into version 4 and version 5. Okay, it will combine this C and it will make it as a linear thing. Okay, that's why commit IDs will be linear in this. This is how the rebase will work. Okay, and cherry pick. So this is also one of the important entry questions. Okay, so for example, you will have multiple commit IDs, right? And in case if you have to pick only one commit ID, then you can use cherry pick, means git cherry pick, and then you have to give the commit ID so that you will be able to pick that particular commit ID. And tagging, for example, you are working on something and you have to do tagging. Okay, well, tagging is very important because in case if you have to do some releases and all, you have to tag these like version 25.1, 25.2, 25.3. How you will tag that one? You can use git tag version 25.1. Here I have given 1.0, right? Similarly, you can give 25.1, and then in case if you have to push that one, you can push git push origin 25.1. Okay, so that it will be tagged, so that it will be easy for you for the reference in the future. Okay, and it will be easy for the release as well. And then we have one more important thing called stash. Okay, so for example, you are working on a master branch and you are still working on it. You didn't do git commit push everything. Okay, but suddenly some urgent requirement comes from your manager. He tells go to this feature branch and do that change and do that change. Okay, now you don't want to disturb this one because you didn't without making proper changes you can't push the change. Okay, now how you can save yourself from this situation using stash. Okay, when you do git stash, that particular thing which you are working, it will be stashed. Okay, it will be stashed, and now you can do git checkout feature branch, and then you can do whatever changes your manager is telling. Then you can do git add, commit, push, everything. Then you have to come back to your original work which you were doing before that, right? So now what you have to do, now you have to do git stash pop. Okay, so the thing which got stashed before, it will be again popping up on your screen. Okay, now you can continue working on the thing which you worked before. Okay, so this will be a lifesaver in case if you are working on a branch and you are making some changes, and you have to come back and again work on that one. Then you can use this stash command. Okay, so this is the important concept, guys, with respect to git. Okay, so like we have discussed too many concepts, just try to go through once or twice. Okay, so tomorrow we can do the practical of all the things which we discussed today. Okay, so that's it for today. So in case if you have any queries or something, you can just comment it in the comment section of the YouTube video. And in case if you have to connect with me in person, you can connect with me on Topmate. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel so that it will motivate me to continue in this journey. Okay. Thank you guys. Let's catch up tomorrow. That's it for today. Bye. See you.